All right, hey everybody, this is Professor Diffley again. This is History 114, History Springfield. This is Module 3, Lecture Video 3. We left off saying we were going to, in the last video, saying we were talking about the French and Dutch colonization in New America. Their two biggest holdings will be New France, which is modern day parts of Canada, and New Netherlands, which was modern day New York, most of New York City there. Again, now what we're going to talk about then, there's a really good video on Blackboard, required video, so make sure to watch that. So again, I don't want to give too much on this. I don't want. They do a very good job. The Khan Academy video for the French, especially watch the video, but especially make sure to read the required videos on French lifeways, French colonization, any of that. Really good, short, to the point, very clear on what you need to know, what their colonial world looked like here in the Americas. Why we're going to talk about them here too. They're more important in many ways than the Spanish. Again, you have the Black Legend motivating the English, but the French are going to be the closest to the English. They're going to be in greatest competition with them. All three of them are going to be fighting wars in the next century or so for control of global trade, control of your trade in Europe, things like that. And because they're so close in the New World, they're going to be competing. They are going to be forming alliances. They're going to bump heads. Their native allies are going to, be involved, and this is going to really create many of the problems, exacerbate many of the problems, and have a large impact on what happens to native peoples later as well. Short story is many of the native peoples will lose out with the English taking over. A lot of Native Americans will end up in what is Canada, New France. But get there. So New France. So this gives you an idea of where New France was. Notice it does go into what is modern day, the Great Lakes region, and that's called the Middle Ground. But you can see where the Dutch are, right, all the way up and down the Hudson River. Henry Hudson sailing for the Dutch, Long Island into what is today Jersey, and even parts of Maryland down there. But yeah, the vast majority is here, Massachusetts. Manhattan and Albany. You can even see that. In the New York today, right? The New York Knicks, the Knickerbockers. Knickerbocker is a Dutch term for a type of pants. Even the colors of New York, blue and orange. That's the Mets colors, the Knicks colors, things like that. They are tied to the Dutch past. Even things, there's parts of the city, New York City, the names still come from there. The Bowery, right? And that's part of New York City, a neighborhood in the city. Bowery was a road to the farm, right? Talking about what this area was. But you can still see a lot of that Dutch influence in some of the terms. Even, if I went to school in New York, I grew up there. You take Regents exams, not the MCATs. The Regents were the names used by the Dutch for their sort of governors in the New World and things like that. So again, you're going to have that influence. But the French, original goals of the French is really for trade. They're really looking for the Northwest Passage. The idea was that there was, and the hope they're going to search for forever. They'll find it because it don't exist. But that you could enter, that there would be a river system, water system connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific. That it would cut down on time of travel. You wouldn't have to go around South America to get to the Pacific. That was their goal. When they don't find it, they also begin to trade with the Native Americans, and that's going to be really important, right? They're really interested in fur trading more than anything else, rather than large-scale colonization. Why compared to other empires? One is, and this has to do with their dealings with them. The French never really sent a lot of settlers to the New World. Why? Because they were afraid that it would hurt them in Europe. France is a large country, shockingly large. It doesn't look it on the map, but it's one of the largest in landmass in Europe. It had the largest population, and that was real strength. That was the major strength the French had over everybody else. They had a much larger population in terms of wars, military and economics, and the fear was that if too many people siphoned off and came to the New World, France would be hurt back in the Old World. They're going to set up more trading networks, more trading outposts. You will have some cities like Montreal, Quebec, and others start, but they're going to be few and far between there. It's going to be more trading posts and things like that. In order to trade with the natives, the French took the path of creating good relations with them, right? And so why do you have humane? Well, one is if you're going to be outnumbered the whole time, really, it's best in your best interest to have good humane relations and treatment of them. Champlain refused the belief that the natives were somehow inferior to Europeans. So they are going to be much more humane, much better dealings. Again, the colonists are there to trade. Because it's less, especially in that middle ground area, which we're going to talk about there, native and French mix. And even to a degree, some English later are going to mix as more or less equals, right? This middle ground is sort of the middle ground between, New France and the Native American worlds. Of course, the Europeans wanted to encourage the natives to adapt and adopt European ways, but in reality, it was more of the French fur traders and others marrying into native families and adopting native lifestyle and things like that. So that's not something you're going to happen in English. Again, you're going to get that with the Spanish and the French, but definitely not the English there. Learning long-term impacts on native populations. One of the things is even though they are humane, especially compared to their other European colonists and conquerors, they're still going to bring disease. They're still going to bring hardship. Maybe they're going to have native allies who, when they fight against the English will win. This will lead to negative outcomes. Let's just put it that way, as we'll see for the Native American people. So we're going to make sure to take a look at the notes there. Here's one of Champlain and native allies. So these are supposed to be the Dutch here fighting the natives. You can see the Dutch and Europeans having firearms. Again, a very idealized view. So one thing I'll say about the Dutch here and the Dutch imperialism is, for the Dutch, for a very small land, this is the Netherlands. It's sometimes called Holland, even though Holland's just a region within the Netherlands. It was the main region. It's called the Low Countries. Lots of different names for the Dutch there. The Dutch Empire. So the wild thing is, for a while, the Dutch are going to be the global economic power on the planet for at least over a century. Even though they're a small, very, very small country, they're going to excel in trade. And so that is really what the Dutch Empire is about. The Dutch never really have large-scale colonization anywhere. Again, it's a small country. Not a lot of people are willing to emigrate, or would they let them? Most even where they do settle, it's actually more in Asia, on the island of Java, for their coffee production. And things like that, but most of what they're going to set up are trading posts, right? Smaller settlements, and New Amsterdam was one of them. Interesting thing, later when the Spanish and the Anglo-Dutch War, when the Dutch and English fight, the Dutch will fight tooth and nail to hold just about every trading post, every colony, every outpost they have around the planet, and it truly was a global war. They're fighting in parts of Africa, India, other parts of Asia, in the Americas. The Dutch give up New Amsterdam, which is New York City. They give up this territory. Why? I mean, the last governor of the Netherlands, of New Amsterdam, Peter Stuyvesant, doesn't even fire a shot when the British warships come into the harbor. Why? It's not worth it to them. To them, they viewed, again, one of their names was for the Bowery, right? They saw Manhattan Island as farmland then. They didn't really think it was that valuable of territory, right? What is now New York State, New York City, Manhattan. Why not? The view was, it's the weather's not good for large scale, farming in terms of cash crops, right? Something that you can sell and so the cotton, tobacco, other sugar plantations. That's not going to be a big one there. There's no gold there, that sort of thing. So they do not see it as essential, which is interesting. Now jump ahead. Now New York is a center of obviously commerce, has the best natural deep water port on the East Coast. It becomes, a centerpiece to the British Empire in America, and later to New York. That's why it's called the Empire State, right? It still is. New York State is its nickname there. The Dutch were known for their freedom, and again, you'll see this more in their views. They were much more open than any of the other European powers there. They're going to have some better relations with the native peoples as well compared to the English and others. Again, even though in New Netherlands you don't have much elected assemblies, the whole place was actually run more or less by the West India Company, the Dutch West India Company, which really did control. They were the governors. They had the economic power and the military. These private company militaries. Slaves and women had rights in Dutch territory. You still had slaves. Women were still a second class, but they had rights. the English take over Dutch territory, that is going to be an issue for slaves and women. Their social standing and their position and their treatment is going to decline. The Dutch did have religious toleration. Now, religious toleration and religious freedom, very two different things, right? Religious freedom is everybody's allowed to practice their own religion. There's no penalties for it. Everybody can have public religion. The Dutch had religious toleration in the sense that you did not have to be an official religion of the state. You could practice your religion, but you weren't allowed to do so in public, right? And so you could do it in your own home, that sort of thing. And again, the words of toleration, right? When you tolerate something, you're not really accepting of it truly, right? Of wholly letting it in, and that you're willing to just sort of turn a blind eye, right, to it. So again, their conceptions of being tolerant and religious freedom, nothing, and we're going to see that with English, nothing like it is today. Again, you can see this all in that video there on Blackboard. So where we'll pick up next is the origins of English colonization of North America. We're going to go through that quickly because, again, a lot of that is covered in the required videos, and then we'll get into what isn't there really about this region. So we'll get there in the next lecture video.